Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 805, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at SBProU.com.
Good evening and welcome to Leadership Live at 805 Talking Small Business. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and look forward to hanging out with you once again this evening. As you know, the world is changing very quickly, especially in the business landscape, and there are a lot of unknowns out there, a lot of things going on, and we don't really know how they're going to end up. But we still have to persevere, and we still have to make sure our business is successful. So that's a great reason why we have the show tonight. It's called Resilience in the Face of the Unknown. And our guest is Ken Miller. And I'm really excited about having him on the show tonight, because if anybody knows about the unknown, Ken Miller knows personally in many settings and stages. And he's been able to make himself and remake himself and survive and thrive. So I think that you're going to learn some valuable lessons to help you be more successful in what you do. Because at the end of the day, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. And that's really why we do the show, to help you build your knowledge base, your experience, your perspective, so that you can be more successful in business. So at this time, I'm going to invite Ken on to join us. Hey, Ken, how are you doing this evening?
Show. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks for joining me tonight. Definitely look forward to really chatting with you about many different things that you've learned and encountered throughout your journey. Definitely, I have an appreciation for your journey, but you're brand new to all the guests. So if you could take a few minutes to really just talk a little bit about your journey, so I can know a little bit about who you are before we get started.
Sure. Let's start with the present. Presently, I'm a business owner. I have 4 different businesses. Call me a solopreneur. You can call me an entrepreneur. But I am very familiar with business, and I have some businesses, and I have employees, I have contractors, and I have successful businesses. I think that's very important that I say that. But how did I get to this point? I started my first business in 2014. So I've had a business now for 11 years. But before that, let's start. I'm 62 years old, born in 1962. I went through foster homes for 7 years. I was adopted at age 7, moved from New York to Alaska, went to school in Alaska. I was what you would call precocious. I was gifted. And so I was a National Merit Scholar, and I was accepted to Harvard, but I chose to go to Dartmouth College and got my degree from Dartmouth College, one of the Ivy League schools. I unfortunately graduated with a degree in fraternity with a minor in drinking, and within 2 years after doing some corporate work with Kodak Corporation and the 3M Corporation, I found myself homeless on the streets of Seattle. I remained homeless for about 20 years. I was either homeless, or I was locked up, or I was in the penitentiary. I'm a 3-time convicted felon. I've been to prison for over 5 years. And finally, in 2007, when I was released from my last bit, I had no skills, no marketable skills, and I fell into a position as a development director, which is fundraising for a nonprofit soup kitchen. 4 years after that, I started my first business as a fundraising coach. I still have that business, Denali FSP, very successful business. I've been doing that for 11 years, worked with 140 clients. And then to make the long story short, I've started 3 other businesses in the meantime. And so I run those businesses and I do quite a few other things that hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk about as we go along. So that's my quick synopsis.
Excellent. So, definitely, that's a lot of stuff for any person, and that's only part of your journey. So, so it's pretty exciting. So now, we're going to get started chatting about sort of resilience in the topic. But before we do that, we do our show through the Small Business Pro University. So we just want to take a minute to make sure everybody knows what it is. So we'll play a short video and then we'll be back talking small business with Ken Miller. Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded Small Business Pro University to help you break that cycle by empowering you with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead your organization more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've collaborated with organizations like the Small Business Development Center, Rising Tide Capital, Empower the Village, NJMEP, Rutgers University, and SCORE to work one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and teach tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a naval officer, managing businesses, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation, which has prepared me to accomplish my mission of helping 1 million and 8 business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. We employ my proven proprietary Masterpreneur Playbook framework to guide your journey along the Masterpreneur path and facilitate your Masterpreneur evolution to work on your business and scale faster and easier. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include the Small Business Pro Network, 100+ expert-led multimedia courses, intensive training workshops, Spanish language training, Leadership Live at 8:05 live stream and podcast, in-person Power Breakfast events, and advisory coaching, consulting, and training services. Okay, back with Ken Miller talking small business. Hey, Ken, we've got our topic, resilience in the face of the unknown. But I always like to sort of define what we're talking about. So when we talk about resilience, what does that mean to you?
The first thing, so I speak on this subject quite often. The first thing I always say to people is picture the tree that bends but does not break. What we're trying to do is not break, because what the break does, it severs the relationship with you and the company, or severs the relationship with you and others. That's a break. What we can do is we can bend, we can take a step back, we can stumble, but how do we continue moving forward toward the goal, the aspiration, or the prize? And so that's one of the things that I always talk about, is to come back from the setback. It's another term, somewhat a cliche, but that's really what it is. We've stubbed our toe, but now how do we continue forward? And one of the things is, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about that, is failing forward. But resilience is the bend, but not the break.
All right. So that's a new definition for me. I've never heard it defined that way, but it makes sense. So no, that's great. And along with that, um, when do you have like when you're thinking about the topic and when you're thinking about resilience in the unknown, how does that apply? Because you don't really know what you're trying to be resilient from. So if we're looking at the topic, what are the key things that we want to talk about tonight?
We want to talk about, there's a couple of things we want to talk about. One thing I always talk about is time horizon. So we want to talk about time horizon, and we'll talk about that. We want to talk about gap control. What is gap? What is the control? We want to talk about react versus act, okay? And what we want to do is act, not react. We want to talk about the grounding of truth. What is the truth about this situation, circumstances, or set of events that is happening to us that is unexpected? And then we will touch on faith, but that's a small portion, at least for this conversation, it is. But for those who believe, it is an important part in the bounce back or in the coming back from that setback. And to be resilient to Ben is if you are faith-based, to have some type of faith. And then what we'll talk about is what do we have for tools to be resilient? And we'll talk about those also. So those are just some of the items.
Okay, excellent. So, why don't we tackle them one at a time? You
Okay.
mentioned time horizon.
Mhm.
So, you know, that
We'll talk
also
about
goes hand in hand with perspective.
right, right.
So when we're talking about time horizon and resilience, what does that mean?
So what I talk about is the tyranny of the now. The tyranny of the now. You're in pain now, discomfort, challenge now. That's in the present. Okay. And one of the things that, as quickly as possible, what is the long-term ramifications of this setback or challenge? I love the word challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it's all pain-based. This is all pain-based because it's based on fear. So fear is a future anticipation or expectation of pain. That's all fear is. So we're seeing it, whether it's a second away, 5 minutes away, a month away when we have to do payroll. It's pain that we are perceiving at some point in the future. That's fear. But what we need to do is take a step back, and we'll talk about that when we talk about gap control. Take a step back, get out of the tyranny of the now. And one of the best ways is to realize I'm hurting. I have a concern. I have a challenge. Yes, this is real. The emotion is real. But remember this, emotion is not cognitive. It's not literally of the intellectual part of the brain. It's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's an opinion on a set of circumstances. That's what an emotion is. It can be fear, it can be anger, it can be love, it can be happiness, but it's an opinion on a set of circumstances or events. So what we do is we say, yes, I agree. I plead guilty to feeling this way. I'm scared or I'm angry. My partner just stole all my money. I mean, I have a lot of stories. So I'm angry. Okay, that's great. That's in the now. You are stuck in the tyranny of the now. So next thing we want to move, once we understand this is an emotion, let us try to think long term. And now we go into gap control. Gap control is the space between the input, okay, which is a perception, comes through our senses, usually through either sight or oral, and the action/reaction. If it's very quick, it's a reaction. And if we take time, and that's the maturity, that's the growth. And the word I love is discernment, which comes from giving time before we do an action. And sometimes the action is to do no action. That's a hard one. It's like people with silence. They think they can talk their way out of things. They think that they need to continue in the sales cycle, continually talking. No, you need to shut up. You need to allow time for that other individual to deal with something. But in our relationship, really, you're having a talk with yourself. And the talk with myself is I need to get away from this situation. I need to take a break. I need to put some space, a gap between this input that just came in that I was not expecting, and then what is my next action? Or what is my action to not do any action, because that might be inimical to the well-being of my organization, my company, or me personally, or my family.
Okay, excellent. So that reminds me of something one of my mentors told me. They said you got to pray for patience, because it can be hard to be patient, but it's very important to be able to do that, so you're not reacting. So
let me say this. If I look away, it's because I'm taking down notes. I want to do the best I can to share my experience, my truth. I've done resilience well. I wouldn't be here speaking with you. There's other items from my past that if I wasn't resilient, I wouldn't be here speaking with you, period. So I take down notes to make sure that I touch upon something. Let me just say a real quick one. And this is one I think you brought up. You brought up a mentor. And I'm a big one on mentors, and we'll talk about that when we seek outside counsel. Okay, and that's very important. But that's a little later on down the line. But input comes in. You get a notice from the IRS that, gee, guess what? You're the lucky ones that are going to be audited this year. And there's a concern there. Even if you haven't done anything wrong, there's a concern in the capacity of time that it takes to get audited. Okay, so now you have this reaction. And what do you do? Do you call up the IRS and use profanity? What do you do at that point? But what I'm saying is, this is a good one, and I'll just touch on this. If you truly believe in prayer, go to prayer. That's fine. I'd rather you go to prayer than to react and do something that's going to be inimical, that's going to be bad for the long-term growth of your organization or for you as a person. So prayer is a great one on this, because this is the thing. There's times I cannot get a hold of my mentor. There are times I can't get a hold of my wife, because that's probably one of the main persons that I counsel with. And where do I turn? Well, I've trained myself. I turn inside. I have a conversation with God. That's all my prayer is. It's a conversation. What is God's will in this circumstance? And God's will has told me on a few occasions, walk away. Just walk away. Okay.
Okay. So definitely, that makes a lot of sense. So you talked about gap control. Tell a little bit about, what do you mean by gaps and how you control them?
Okay. So again, the gap is input. So this is what happens. You will have, I'll give examples. And it's not a business, but many people will understand this. As a Black man in my circumstances, from my environment, which was of the streets and the penitentiary for many years, there were 3 words that you could not call me. You couldn't use them in relationship to me. And I'm just going to say one of them, because it's a business environment here. You couldn't call me a punk. You couldn't. Because if you did, I was programmed. I had a script I had to play out that it was of violence. It really is of threats and violence. I had no gap control. It was a reaction. If you called me the N-word in certain people calling me that, there was a reaction, not an action. It wasn't any time. Didn't matter that it might put me in the penitentiary for many more years or put me in the hole. Did not matter. I was programmed. Almost all of us, and I never try to say everybody, we have built-in scripts. So a script is this in the business world. A script is, I do a service or goods for you, Mr. and Mrs. Client / a person that I'm dealing with. And after 2 to 3 months, you decide you're not going to pay me. I may have a script that I may play out because I got an input saying that I'm not going to pay you and you didn't do a good job on your services or the delivery of the goods. And so you're not getting anything from me. If you want to talk to my lawyer, feel free. That happens. That happens in business. And many people have reacted to that instead of putting a gap, seeking outside counsel, seeking internal spiritual counsel, or just taking some time off to think about what is on the long term of business going to affect me. Okay. And I've had situations where I wanted to do something over $50 because you disrespected me, and I reacted, and it caused me time. That's what it caused me. But the key thing is same thing in business. Everything that I've experienced on the streets and in the penitentiary, I can make an analogy to business. Everything. And they're very, very similar in many, many ways.
Okay. And I think also that's one of the key, tenets of effective leadership and becoming an effective leader, because you can't lead anyone if you can't lead yourself. And, if you're reacting, then you're not really leading yourself in the best way.
This is the other thing. If you are reacting, children react. Maturity, the reason, what makes us mature is that we have longer time horizons. A child says, I'm hungry. A child says, I'm thirsty. A child says, I want to play. That's all in it. He's not thinking about a week from now that he's hungry or will be hungry. I need to go to the store. But as we mature, our time horizons become larger. And then when we go to another level of maturity, which is discernment, which is the ability to differentiate and pick between usually similar opportunities, or we can even call them roads to take. And that's our discernment. But again, so here we got the input. And this is, and a lot of people say, well, how long is the gap? The gap is as long as you need to not react. That's how long the gap is. The only time that I will react, and this is personal, is if you threaten my family. That's it. That's the only, and nobody has in 20-some years. But that's about the only thing. I don't react to words anymore. You can call me anything you want. I got a beautiful house. I got a beautiful wife, beautiful grandchildren. I'm cool. Okay. But the only thing is I'm protective of my family. But that hasn't even happened. So I don't have to worry about it, but I will be.
So, okay. No, that makes sense. So I don't know if you heard about the marshmallow test that they did, but there was a test a while back where they would put a marshmallow, they'd offer a kid a marshmallow now, or if you can wait 10 minutes, you get 2 marshmallows. And most kids couldn't wait the 10 minutes. So, but they say that's a predictor of success later in life. And I guess it just means they're a little further down the path of self-control.
So let me speak to that.
Okay.
So I will push back on that.
Okay.
And the only reason, and I'm sure the test was well vetted. I have no problem with that. It goes back to the one of the oldest arguments in philosophy: nature or nurture. Nature or nurture. Okay. Mm-hmm. And in that, is things preordained? Is that a part of us? Is leadership born? I just had this conversation yesterday with one of my mentees. Are we born leaders, or do we acquire leadership? I have to believe that we can acquire leadership. I don't believe in antecedents as the precursor to us being a great leader. But what I did say, there are individuals that learn leadership in junior high. They learned leadership in high school. They were the captain of the football team. They were the captain of the debate team. They were, the lead trombone in band. but they had a leadership position where they had individuals that quote unquote looked up to them, reported to them, and or they led toward a goal, aspiration, or prize. Okay. And so they learned leadership early. But I'm a true believer in that you can learn leadership. But not everyone is a leader. And I'm so comfortable with people who just want to lead within their family. But we're talking business. And as a business leader, everybody on this call can be a great leader. I so believe that. And you take your courses and you can become a great leader. So nature versus nurture, I lean more toward it's not preordained and or it's not as identifiable when you're 4 years old or 7 years old. Sure, maybe those ones because of whatever happened when they were 4 or 5 or 7, but I'd look at scans that you're born with leadership qualities. That's just
okay. Well, actually, I just had an article published on leadership in New Jersey Business, and it's called Learn to Lead by Leading to Learn. And,
love it.
you know, talking about the military experience where, you know, you learn about leadership, but then you learn leadership by being in leadership role. And I think it takes a combination. But like you said, everybody does have the potential to be a successful leader in as long as they have to do it in their own way. So excellent. So we're about halfway through, and I'm just going to share a little bit of information about something that we're really excited about being able to make available to people through our organization. So let me take a look, quick video to take a break, and then we'll be back talking small business with Ken Miller. Every great business owner needs an expert financial management team. As your business grows, you're going to need more comprehensive financial expertise to help you with these activities. Financing growth, managing cash flow, maximizing profitability, strategic planning and budgeting, accurate, timely information for decision-making, determining the appropriate staffing and inventory levels, and preparation for and analysis of potential opportunities. At this stage, you may not have the budget to hire multiple financial professionals from different firms. However, we can provide an outsourced team with over 100 years of experience in CFO, controller, accounting, tax, and bookkeeping to provide the expertise you need when needed. We will help you with your financial needs from A to Z. Whether you need bookkeeping, we will organize and enter your financial information. Accounting, we will provide accurate, timely financial reporting with analysis of key information and trends. Taxes, we will help you with tax preparation, reporting, and submission. Or CFO services, business strategy, financial projections, KPIs, or financing. We've got you covered from A to Z. Use the link below to schedule a complimentary discovery session. You have nothing to lose. Use the link below to explore how we can help. All right, welcome back. I'm here with Ken Miller. We're talking about resilience in the face of the unknown. Definitely appreciate everybody's comments and questions in the chat. I'm going to go to a few of the questions in the chat. So this one fits a little bit with what we just talked about. So let's start with that. Can resilience be learned, or is it natural?
100% it can be learned. 100%. Again, what the ones that we see as natural, that individual is, recovered from this setback within usually their social life. But yeah, as you know, most people aren't business owners. They're employees. So those individuals probably learned early on how to be resilient, how to not break, because we see the repercussions of those who broke. There are the individuals that have a substance abuse or substance misuse problem. They are the people that are incarcerated. They are the people that unfortunately, have maybe committed suicide, okay, or self-harm. Those are the ones that are broken. And I was one. I was one for a while. And then I learned resilience. I understood what resilience was. And I had to learn through time and effort to what are the steps to get out of that. And we just started on the gap control. That's just the beginning. But that's a great question. It can be learned. It's just the ones that you think are natural. They probably were either in a home environment that was conducive to being resilient over some small setback they had in 7th grade or 9th grade, because we all do. We all do. We go through puberty. So we all have, setbacks and things that we have to deal with, in the high school years and in our early adulthood. But it's how we overcome the small ones, let alone the large ones.
Definitely, definitely. Another question we have, which I think is key, is what role does mindset play in staying resilient?
Interesting question, because I'll be frank with you, I don't understand what you mean by mindset. Okay, so I don't know if we can come off mute. I'd probably not, but so there's a body of knowledge that states if you do XYZ will probably lead to this result. Okay. And in resilience and in the training I've had, and I've had some training in this and I've been speaking on it for a few years. And I have one of the great things about being a public speaker is that you get input from the people that have listened to you. And then you can course correct or modify the presentation that you make through some of the information you're getting. Well, have you ever read this book or have you ever done this? So mindset. The mindset is this, if I was going to use the word mindset. Do you have to, let me put it another way. Do you have to be really intelligent to be resilient? No. And sometimes that can be an impediment. Do you have to be very spiritual to be, or religious to be resilient? No. There are many people who are atheists and agnostic who are resilient. Do you have to be willing to try something new or to change or try something that's uncomfortable to be resilient? Yes, 100%. Yes, you do. Because one of the things that we're going to talk about, you need courage. You have to have courage. And we'll talk about what courage is. But so that's a great question. I hope I've answered it to your liking. If not, if you want to elaborate in another question, and possibly we can come back to you. But thank you for the question.
Okay, great response. So, this is always interesting question. So, put you on the spot. What is the number one trait of resilient leaders? I know there's many, but what would you classify as number one?
Well, I'm looking at my slide deck. I got it right over here when I teach this from the stage in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. The number one thing a leader must have is the ability to see and embrace truth. Truth. That's it. That's the number one. They've got to see what is truth, what is real. We have a problem. What is the problem? What is a problem? I'm going to give you the definition of a problem. A problem is a set of circumstances that seeks a solution. That's all a problem is. A set of circumstances that seeks a solution. 2 + 2 is not a problem. 2 + 2 equals is a problem because it's seeking the solution, which is the equal sign. So you have problems throughout business, and 90% of problems of business are finance and people. Finance and people. This has been my experience. If you have other ones, please put it in the chat. But those are the two main ones. And so I need to have the facts, the truth, the reality. So therefore, I can make a decision after I have sought counsel. That counsel can come from AI. I saw a person had an AI question. That counsel can come from wise advisors. That counsel can come from God. That counsel can come from whoever I lean to say, this is my truth, or this is the truth of the organization. What's my next step? And sometimes, again, the answer comes from experience. I know how to solve that.
Okay. Definitely. I'm a big truth person, especially being a finance person.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and a lot of small business owners, sometimes they're afraid of the truth or don't want to know the truth, at least about their numbers.
Why? Why, Andrew?
Well, one, I think one, just because a lot of people have a math phobia.
Okay.
Number two, most people probably think they're doing better than they are, and they may not really want to know the facts.
Right.
Three, they just might not know how to do it. A lot of time I spend teaching people about finance, about financial statements, and how to work with an accountant, a bookkeeper, or doing that for them to make sure they get the information that they need. So, there may be a number of reasons, but I'd say most small business owners fall into that category. In my book, I call it, "What is your greatest fear?" And, it's usually numbers and analysis. So definitely you can't have the truth if you're not looking at your numbers, at least in business and many times in life.
Well, the other thing is you want to make sure you're solving for the right problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like somebody talked about AI. I do a lot in AI.
Yeah.
AI is a function of the query. It's a function of the question you ask. AI, but you have to ask good questions. So again, what is the problem? So if you're solving for this, but that's not really the problem, then the organization still has an opportunity to fail. And this is in life, or we'll talk about small business or medium-sized business, SMBs. You still have the opportunity to fail because you're solving for the wrong problem. If you got a problem with your finance and you're solving an HR problem because you think that's the problem, but it's really your finance, you have much more expenses than you have income coming in, then you will have a problem. And there's a funny thing, the truth usually will reveal itself sooner than later, okay? And what we're trying to do is identify, because here we have the unknown, and many times the unknown starts small. And then as we find out more truth, it grows and it grows. What we want to do is we want to get the tumor while it's small. We want to excise it, do whatever we need to do, but let's get it when it's small. You'll see this a lot when it comes to personnel issues, okay? At least I have. Mm-hmm. It starts small. I heard this, or this person's complaining about this person. And then I find out there's something systemic or something endemic within the organization that's much larger. But if I had dealt with it 2 months ago when I had this one problem child, then I might not have gotten to this point. So why do we do that? Sometimes we don't know what the truth is to the level, or individuals are not sharing enough of the truth. And then there's also, and I'm a very transparent and very frank person, there are individuals that are lazy. We call it one of the 7 deadly sins. It's called sloth. And because of their laziness or procrastination, which is just another fancy word for laziness, or sloth, they don't have the inability to deal with the problem while it's excisable, okay? And then it grows and grows until the organization blows up. And I've seen that happen too many times.
Yes, no, definitely. And, like you said, you need to know what the problem is. Mm-hmm. Having an engineering background, mm-hmm. Look at it as the root cause. What's the root cause? And, what I found working with business owners is usually the problem they have isn't the problem that they think they have. And so like you said, if you're trying to solve the wrong problem, you're treating the symptoms, and that's not a good thing. But one thing I found is that 90% of problems in business usually go away if you just sell more stuff. Your financial problems can go away. A lot of problems, if you just like your access to capital, all these things will go away. But a lot of times, many times business owners may not like to sell or be comfortable to sell, so they don't want that to be the problem, because then there's it's really them that's the problem.
Right.
So
the problem is you need to do some marketing, or you need to find someone who can do some marketing. But let's, if you don't mind, let's go to the next step, because I do want to go through and give people tangible methods of dealing with a setback. So the first thing we do is we identify that we are in a situation that is an impediment to our growth or the growth of the company. We have a challenge, we have a concern. That's number one. Number two, we say to ourselves, I understand that, I have an emotional feeling toward this, but I am not going to react in the tyranny of the now, in the now. Okay, that's one. Number two, I'm going to give some gap control. And in that gap control, I'm going to do prayer. I'm going to go into, I'll use AI if I need to, because that can answer a lot of questions. I'm going to do reflection or introspection, and I'm going to seek outside counsel just to get a little idea. I'm going to call my partner, my wife, my husband, whatever it may be, my partner, and get some eyes on this. Maybe they'll see it a little bit differently. Then I'm going to try to the best of my ability identify what is the facts, the reality. The next thing, and this is important, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it. And that means I am going to give validity to this problem. The difficulty with many businesses is they never want to look at the problem. They never want to. They can stay in the anger. They can stay in the guilt. They can stay in the victim. They can stay in the shame of the failure or the impediment or the setback, but they don't accept that this is the truth. The truth is, I'm going to have difficulty making payroll. That's the truth. What do I need to do? Let me make a couple calls. Let me look inside. Let me see what's available. But the reaction is, I'm not going to just go shut the company down today. The reaction is, I'm not going to go out there and rob a bank. That's the reaction. Then we go from acceptance to courage. What is courage? Please hear this definition. Courage comes from la coeur, from the heart. That's where they thought emotions lied back in the Middle Ages. That's where the word comes from. And it means, the definition that I've come up with, is the willingness to accept the possibility of pain. That's it. Doesn't mean the pain is coming, but I'm willing to accept it because I have courage that there is a possibility that this could be discomforting, what I have to do next. What do I have to do next? And I've done this. I've been in this position. I'm going to pay everybody. I'm not going to pay me. I'm not going to pay me because I had a draw as the CEO of the company. I'm not paying me, but I'm going to make sure my staff gets paid. Know that. I made payroll one time and I had $19, and this is literally a $600,000, $700,000 company, and I had $19 in the bank account. There are other people on this call who have had something similar, but that was my courage to go home and explain to my wife that I'm not getting paid. It's going to be a little tight this month, but it's all good because I'm looking long horizon. My time horizon is long, and I have a solution to this problem. We didn't get some money from the state of Alaska for whatever we were doing, ... but it is coming. Okay, great. The next thing, once we've done the acceptance, once we have the courage to do the correct action, I'll just go into the next one and we'll take a break. And the thing I always want to do is get out of self. It's not a reflection, quote unquote, on me. This is not something that I have to play the victim or say, why me? Why, did God do this to me? Why me? That's into self. I have other individuals that I, as a leader of this company, am responsible for. I make payroll. I've never missed a payroll, never. Okay, because they have their families, and they got to do what they have to do with the income that they get from working for me as a value added to my company. So I'm always saying, let me get out of self. And what I personally do is I try to identify what is God's will versus Ken's will. And that's the next thing that I do. And I'll take a break here, and there's two more that we'll have, but that'll give you something to work with.
Okay. All right. So no, I mean, definitely, I guess it's a journey that you have to go through, to maintain your resilience and to, which is great. So now, definitely, we've got a few questions. I think you covered some of them though, but, for young people, if you're starting out as an entrepreneur, how can you develop your resilience, or how what do you need to learn to be more resilient when you're starting out?
The first thing I would tell young entrepreneurs, get a mentor, get a good mentor. There's nothing new in business. There's nothing new in business. And we're talking about a business problem here at this point. And we're talking about being resilient in the face of something you wasn't expecting that's come up in your business. Remember I said 80-90% is going to be finance or people, okay? And the people could be clients, but that's connected to finance also. But it's usually staff members or contractors or vendors. Is to be able to have that outside counsel, because you don't have enough experience usually on what are the solutions. Plus, you probably need someone to support you emotionally. And what I mean by support you emotionally is, hey, I understand that you're angry. I get it. Don't do anything. Let's sit on, let's talk about it tomorrow. I'll have a couple ideas for you. This is me. I've done this. Okay. And so seeking that outside counsel. And it doesn't have to just be one person. It can be multiple. A man of many counselors is a wise man. It's Proverbs. So they've had it for thousands of years. So have that. And so how to teach that resilience is, the first thing I tell them, get some mentors. And then I would really, really try to teach them about the gap control. Because again, when we're younger, we don't have the maturity to see long timelines. We're not thinking about retirement at 65. I'm 22 years old, my first company, and this bump came up in the road, and now I want to react in this method or this way. Okay, so I would definitely teach them gap control, and the way you teach gap control, just say, what do we need to do to not react, but to take some time to use our gifts, which are our intellect and our ability to communicate with others, to then act. And we'll teach that. And then we can move on to courage. We can move on to acceptance, and move on to, seeing truth. And that's another big one. That's why it's the number one bullet that I have on my slide, is truth. See it for what it is. Great question.
No, definitely. So, one thing that I always talk to people about is, my wife loves movies. So one of the ones we see, is Any Given Sunday with Jamie Foxx. And, I'd say the biggest learning that comes out of there is when he talks about see it before you do it. And, that seems sort of like the gap. Before you do something, you want to look at yourself doing it and anticipate what the reaction or the impact of what you want to do is before you actually do it. And that's really what writing a business plan is. seeing your business before you do it.
Interesting. Yeah. So one of the things that they teach or try to attempt to teach you is picture yourself if you do this action.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's usually you react too quickly. And I don't want to go too deep into this, but I had to literally get counseling to take away the power of words, just to take away the power of words. And so anybody on this call, what do you think? Are there any words that, if not a threat to your family or your loved ones or to your body, that you would react either in a threat or in violence? Just think about that. It's a simple one. And it's like, and I'm not one that tries to differentiate, but this is really, in many cases, a male problem. I'm talking about the violence part is a male problem. And especially in my community of Black men, I grew up in that. I'm very familiar with that world. And we are, quote unquote, programmed to react. And so to teach individuals, and especially younger, it's hard. It's hard, the younger ones. As we get older, we understand a little more about the repercussions of acts or reactions. And so it's probably a little easier, but I didn't get it till I was 48 years old before I finally took away the power of words and took away the reactions. And that we call them scripts. That's what they are. There's a script. I got to play it out.
Okay. Excellent. So, so definitely mentors are key. I would just say you want to get good mentors, and you want to make sure that, if you're in business, they understand what it means to be in business. Because people who have never been in business, their perspective, may not be the perspective that you need to follow. And, also, you want to get a mentor in your industry, because industry knowledge is important. So if you can, and you can do that through mentorship or coaching and consulting. Bring in a coach or consultant, because a lot of times they can see stuff before you, or they can see, what, beyond the gap, and see around the corners, and help you be more prepared and be able to make better decisions. So let's go back to, you sort of took us through the process,
But there's two more.
Okay. So, but let's just go through each one. So challenge, not react, gap control, truth, accept the situation, courage, and then get out of self. So
get out of self. There was one we skipped over, and my apologies on that, is one of the things I've learned, and if you really want to be resilient and probably do a good job at it, is to be grateful. It's to be grateful. In the worst of times, you can still be grateful. You still got your partner at home. You still got the children. You got the grandchildren. You have, quote unquote, the health that you have. You are a child of God. You're living. And I too can overcome this. Okay. So that's another thing I call gratitude and thankfulness. I have another one where the last two that, and then we said get out of self. And then the last two, and this is important, work and grind. Work and grind. Okay. So we have a difficulty, and I've had difficulties where I'm like, okay, it's 12-hour days for me. It's 12-hour days. I got to dig myself out of this. It may not, quote unquote, have been my fault. You know this from military leadership, but it was on my watch. It's on my watch. I'm the CEO. I'm the leader of this team. Okay. So, and usually it is my fault, because I'm a solopreneur for most of my companies. So it is me who did it, but I have employees now. But back when I was by myself, it was always on me. But now I got to work. And now if I have to grind. And I could spend a half hour talking about grinding, but a key. So we work, we grind. And then the last one we've talked about a little bit is prayer.
Hmm.
I continually will go back into prayer if need. If anything, prayer just centers me to get out of self in my pain. Okay, to get out of the victimology, to get out of the why me. Why did this happen to me? Because I wasn't expecting it. Remember, this is unknown. Because I have another one, resilience in the face of the known. We do a little different because we know it's coming. We know it's coming. Okay. But in the unknown, many times the first thing we say is, why me? It's not you. It's an event. It's an experience. You just happen to be the recipient of that experience. So now, what are you going to do? Because you've been dealt you've been dealt a hand of cards. How are you going to play them?
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So, I mean, this is a powerful process. Um, you know, definitely, you've not only learned it, you've lived it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this has been tremendously valuable. Definitely appreciate everybody for their questions and comments, but definitely before we close out, definitely Beverly, thanks for your comment here. I think that that's 100%. And we talked about a whole bunch of stuff tonight, but most people can't remember any more than 3 things. So as a result, it would be great if you could share 3 key takeaways that people can, take from what we discussed tonight and put to work tomorrow to help them and their business be more successful. I'll give you a couple minutes to really
Okay.
share your thoughts, and I'll take a minute to show a video about our upcoming conference. So, and then we'll be back and hear the top 3 from Ken Miller. We're here at the Small Business Power Breakfast and Conference. I'm excited to say that we had a great day.
This event was a wow. Every panel, every speaker has had so much amazing content and good information to share.
This is a good day to put aside to come out and do some learning, but also make some great connections. The ones that I made were impactful.
Hi, I'm Andrew Frazier, Masterpreneur and founder of the Small Business Pro University. For more than 10 years, our events have directly resulted in tens of millions of dollars in both revenue and financing for attendees. Join me at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 25th at NJ Pack's Nico Kitchen and Bar in Newark, New Jersey, to learn best practices, enjoy great networking, and gain useful knowledge. We will supercharge your day. I look forward to seeing you at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 25th in NJ Pack at Nico Kitchen and Bar in Newark, New Jersey. To learn more and register, visit www.sbpro.com/conference. Okay, welcome back. Here with Ken Miller. We're getting ready to close out, but before we do that, Ken's going to share with us 3 key takeaways that we should know in order to be able to put to work what we discussed this evening. Because if you don't use it, what good was it to hear and take the time out of your schedule to be here? So, Ken, what do you recommend?
Number 1, acceptance is a decision. Acceptance of truth is a decision. Make a decision. This is number 1, to accept this is the true circumstances that we are under. Okay, it's number 1. You have to see the truth. Number 2, understand gap control. Understand react versus act. Just understand that and just internalize. I'm in pain. I'm in concern. I'm in challenge. I need to put some space between the antecedent, the precursor to this pain, and whatever I do next as action. Okay, that's number 2. And then number 3, I would say be courageous. Be courageous. Knowing that many times it's going to be the grind, it's going to be the work, it's going to be some tough calls, it's going to be some uncomfortable moments. But I always have my eye on the prize. My prize has always been to support my family. That's my prize, is supporting my family at the level that commensurate with the way that we've chosen that we want to live. But that's for my wife and my children, my grandchildren. That's my prize. You may have a different prize. I have no problem. But again, be grounded in that I'm going to be courageous enough to go through any discomfort or pain involved in obtaining the prize. Those are my 3 among many.
Okay, great. So basically it's a decision that's key to everything, to see the truth. Okay. I guess understanding the gap control, and then being courageous. I think as a business owner, you know, if you're not courageous, you're not doing the right thing. And so definitely this has been very insightful. You know, definitely a great 3 things to take away. But before we go, anything you want to share as we're closing out?
What I'd love to share, I have a new book, if you don't mind, Andrew. I have the new book that came out yesterday. It was released. It's on Amazon. It's called Becoming Ken, A Black Man's Journey from the Ivy Leagues to the Penitentiary and Back Again. But again, the back again is important, but it has been released, and I would love if you're interested in it. And then also I do speak, and I'm always looking to speak more, to share. And I speak on resilience. This is my keynote. I've spoken on this many stages. It's a little longer, but speaking on resilience, I speak on self-esteem, and I speak on mentoring, coaching, and workplace sponsorship. So if you're interested in that, just go to Ken Miller Speaks. And then I think he put in my LinkedIn, I'm Ken Miller 84. And last thing I'd like to say, Andrew, is number 1, thank you. Thank you. Even if you went to MIT, I still want to thank you. As a Dartmouth to an MIT, I want to thank you for having this platform. And I want to thank everybody that's on this call. You took time out of your day to go to something that's a value added. I hope it has been a value added for you. And thank you for owning businesses. Thank you for what you do for this country and what you do for your community. And most importantly, thank you for what you do for your family. And if you believe, for your choice of spiritual leader. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, it's been great having you on here, Ken. You know, enjoyed the discussion. You know, wish we had a few more hours, but I don't think people can hang in there that long. But this has been really good. You know, like I said, you've got Ken's LinkedIn. He's a friendly guy, so feel free to connect with him and reach out and then you've got his website for the speaking and his books on Amazon. So hopefully, you know, if you want to connect with him, we'll make it easy. So thanks again, Ken, for sharing your knowledge and expertise. And hang on for a minute as I close things out. So definitely appreciate Ken being here. You know, I think we covered a lot of valuable stuff. Appreciate your comments and feedback. You know, definitely Marcella. Let's see, where's okay. You know, appreciate you being here, always being here and sharing through social media. And you know, we've got Paula also agreeing with Marcella. So I'm glad that you're getting things out of the show, which is valuable. So thanks again for hanging out with us tonight. As you know, each week we have a great guest and a great topic. And given what we talked about tonight, our next guest and our next topic is very appropriate. So, you know, we talked about the truth. And next week we're going to talk about, let's see, The Truth Matters with David Lovejoy. So definitely look forward to that conversation. And we're going to talk about numbers. So because that's what, that's where you get a lot of the truth in business. So hopefully you can join us next week. Thanks for being here. And at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live. Thank you for listening to Leadership. Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at SBProU.com.
All right. Thanks and good evening.